I've got a very special guest to kick off today's show. He's a man with an 8-0 record, 7 KOs. He's the IBF World Youth Champion. He's also the youngest Queensland champion ever. He goes by the nickname Money. That's Max McIntyre. Max, I appreciate you taking time to come on today.
Hey guys, how are you?
I'm good, man. Well, first and foremost, thanks for taking time to come on today, man.
That's all good, bro.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into this first portion. You're coming off a fight. It was about 2 weeks ago. You fought against Ricaia Warren, who was undefeated at that point in time, 5-0. Walk us through that performance. I'm sure you've broken it down, listened to it, watched it. What's your thoughts on that performance now?
Oh, that performance was a real stepping stone for me, and I think that was the performance that sort of gets me on the world stage. And yeah, I think that was just the performance that showed that that's where I belong.
When you look back at that fight, what are some things that you feel like you improved on or could improve on? What are some things you did good? Like, how do you kind of evaluate that fight when you look back at it?
Um, oh, I think there's a few things I could still improve on, and there's always things to improve on. But even since my last performance before that, I could see that I've leveled up heaps, which I knew I did.
Mm-hmm.
And my power's increasing, my man strength nearly fully come through, and because I'm only 20, like I'm still growing, and
Right.
my strength is still building overall.
Well, I have to ask you one other question before we get going any further. You go by the nickname Money. I have to know how that story come to be. Why do you have the nickname Money?
Well, calling myself that in the amateurs, it was just like, obviously Floyd Mayweather's always been my favorite fighter, and I sort of just based myself off that, and
Okay.
that's what I really watch. But it's mostly just, I've just felt like that's just sums up my personality.
What about Floyd attracts you? Like, why has he always been your favorite fighter?
I like his hit and not get hit style. Like,
Mm,
he had a long career and he never really took too much damage, so I really
right.
admire that.
When we look at your game, I have to break it down a little bit. Obviously, we know that you do have a lot of flash. You have a lot of style when you're inside of that ring. You also have the charisma component as well. Can you take us through that a little bit? Like, was a lot of it coming from Floyd Mayweather? Have you adapted some of your own personality and traits into it, or what's kind of brought that trait where you have that flash inside of that ring?
Oh, I've definitely adapted some of my own personality into that.
Yeah.
I think ever since my last couple fights in the amateurs and just my personality overall, sort of, I just always wanted to put on a show.
All right, well, I want people to get to know you a little bit better. And let's go through your career. Obviously, you're out there in Australia, Queensland to be specific. What was it like growing up out there?
Oh, it's pretty good. Brisbane's a pretty good area, and yeah, it's been a pretty good spot to grow up. I've had my gym pretty close, and yeah, everything's been pretty good out here.
In regards to boxing, obviously, I feel like the boxing culture continues to develop a lot. It's growing quickly out there. When you talk about that, though, what was it about boxing for yourself? Why was that the sport that you decided to go pursue?
I tried other sports. I tried rugby league, cricket's popular here, um, a lot of different sports, and I never really found a love for it. But as soon as I started boxing, as soon as I hopped in the ring, like punching someone was just a different, like felt so nice, felt so good. And also, my brother was a boxer as well, and I sort of used to spar with him. And yeah, just that competitive side, knowing that you can like defeat another person who's also trying to do the same thing to you, it's just an irreplaceable feeling. And like being able to give everyone a cup, and now packing out arenas and stuff like that, like yeah, it's such a good feeling.
When did it settle into yourself when you realized, you know what, I want to go be a boxer? This is going to be not just something I'm going to do for fun. I can turn this into a professional thing for myself. When did you realize that this is what you can be doing long term?
Um, well, I was never too academic in school, so
Okay.
I used to get in trouble, and I had to find something that would sort of keep me out of trouble and keep me occupied. And as soon as I started boxing and started leveling up as well, I went all the way with it. Thought I could make some money from it too.
When you go throughout your amateur career, I believe you had 32 fights, if I'm not mistaken, there. When you talk about that run for yourself, what was your amateur career like?
My amateur career was pretty good. I fought some pretty high level guys, and it was definitely the training ground. And built a good foundation for me for what I got now.
When you decided to go pro, and it was right around the age of 18, you went right out there right when you became an adult. Why was it that decision? Like, why did you want to go pro right away?
Um, I just wanted to see what it felt like, and I always had a pro style. I know a lot of amateurs they like to touch. I've always wanted to hurt people and hit them and
Hmm.
make them stay hit.
You know, watching
It's
the
a
way
totally different sport.
watching the way you do fight, I think you definitely are a pro fighter. Do you feel like then the transition for yourself from amateur to pro was quite easy for yourself then?
Yeah, at my gym, we've always trained with pro style. We've never really changed our style to
Okay.
in the amateurs. Like we never really adapted it too much. So we've always fought with a pro style. We've always trained that way, and quite easy moving into the pros. But we're leveling up every day, and our styles always leveling up as well.
There was another thing I wanted to touch up on with you about, and that is something we've seen you do throughout your warm-ups. Obviously, you have the open workouts. So those go down before your fights, and you like to do the blindfolded warm-up. I have to ask about that. How did that story come to be? What's up with the blindfolded warm-ups?
Oh, the blindfolded warm up's just something. We want to do something different. Everyone comes out, they shadow off, they throw a couple punches on the pad. We said, you know what? Why don't we do something different? And yeah, it's got an eyes. It's worked for us.
When did you guys first come up with that? Was that something you guys were just talking one day, you and your trainers, and you said, all right, I think this would be a funny idea? Or how did this come to be?
I think we were doing pads one day, and I think one day we just said, I reckon we can do this with our eyes closed. And we put something around our eyes we couldn't see, and then we could do it blindfolded.
Now, when you do talk about that, it kind of has become something that people always look forward to. It's obviously always goes viral every time you guys go and post it. Is that something you plan on doing for the remainder of your career then?
Yeah, I think we're always going to do something different. We always got to do something to sort of steal the show and show all the fans and show all the people that we are like built different.
Another part of that is that you also talked about the fact that you can do it blindfolded. Is there a certain routine that you guys do have when you guys go in? Like, is there a plan thing you guys have, or is that 100% you guys are just still going off of reaction time with the blindfold on?
Oh, we're doing a combination we know fairly well, and we do most of the time. We never usually do it blindfolded in camp. We usually just do it with our eyes open, obviously, and like
Right.
we drill in the movements, which is defensive movements, moving our head, and we have to be able to do that with our eyes closed. So the combination we know pretty much off by heart, and it's not a muscle memory, but the punches my coach just says as we go,
Okay,
and I have to
gotcha.
be able to react.
Gotcha. Well, I also want to get into some guys you've been sparring with. Preparing you for your most recent fight, I guess you're also preparing him for his fight as well, was against Connor Wallace. Take us through that a little bit. What was it like getting in the ring and sparring some rounds with him?
Oh, Carlos is a world class operator. He's pretty he's pretty crafty. He's a good southpaw,
Mm-hmm.
and getting in the rounds with him, like it's always quality. It's always a proper fight. Every time we spar, it's like it's a proper fight. We do 8 rounds hard.
You know, when you talk about a guy like Connor, he is a man that's already a top contender. Obviously, he could be in a world title shot in the near future. And when you see yourself fight against him, how do those rounds go? Like, do you feel like when you fight against him and you realize you're on his level, do you feel like you still have some time to go? Or how do you feel like in that component?
Oh, I think sparring him, I realized that I do belong on the world stage.
All right.
And after sparring him, I do feel like that's where I belong.
Another guy you shared the ring with a few times, Jai Opetia. You've also been the guy that fights underneath his undercard a couple of times now. What was that like getting in the ring with him?
Getting in with Ricaia was a surreal feeling because I remember 2, 3 years ago, I went and watched his fight with minus one.
Mm.
I was probably longer than that now, I think.
Okay,
But
yeah.
it was a while ago now. But we watched that at the Gold Coast, which is actually where I fought recently.
Mm-hmm.
and it was just a surreal feeling, like hopping in there with him. Even more surreal being on the same card as him and fighting in the same ring with him. Because I remember being a kid and just watching that, and I was like, I wish I could be on that stage. And yeah, but sparring him, it was just world class rounds, and
Mm.
after that, I leveled up so much.
You know, you've shared the ring now with him, on obviously sparring wise. How special is Jai Opetia in your opinion?
Oh, he's a special fighter, you know. I don't think people are. There's not many people that are built like that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's a savage.
You know, in my opinion, I feel like he's a guy that's going to be and belongs on the pound pound top 10. I know, obviously, resume wise, probably still a little bit outside of the top 10, probably around 10, 13, somewhere in between that range, just because he hasn't got his opportunity yet against Zerto or something. But when you talk about how bright his future is, what he can accomplish in the sport, whether that be at cruiserweight, maybe even heavyweight, what do you think people should be excited for, and what can this man accomplish?
Oh, I genuinely think he would do very good at heavyweight, and
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got a massive career ahead. If he moves up to heavyweight, if he stays at cruiserweight, I think he can potentially take over.
In terms of his impact that you've seen now, obviously outside Australia, New Zealand area, all those different components, how big of an impact does him now having this massive spotlight help now in terms of the development of boxing out there in Australia?
It's been massive for Australia. I think getting the Turk to look at us a little bit more, and now as I'm coming up as well,
Right.
there's massive potential I could be on one of those Saudi cards too in the near future. So it's been great for the whole of Australia, but yeah, great for me too.
The reason I asked you that is that your manager, Mick Francis, came out and he said a statement about you a little bit ago. Max is the face of Australian youth boxing and will be the next Australian world champion in a couple of years. When you hear that statement come from Mick, what goes through your mind?
Oh, it's so crazy to hear something like that, and yeah, from what I've dreamed of as a kid, that's just yeah, special hearing that.
You also talked about the fact of the impact Jai has had, knowing that obviously you still have a long way to go to get to that point, but that you have the potential to reach that standard, that level. What excitement does that bring to you? And is there any pressure that comes with that as well?
Oh, there's definitely pressure, but I think I should be able to perform under pressure if I'm a world class fighter, and
Right.
I think I can do that. I know I can do that, and I'm just ready to show everyone when I get the opportunity.
Well, let's hop into your future now, because Max, when we talk about yourself, you're 20 years old. You've only been a pro now for 2, almost 3 years now. When you talk about your career to this point, if I were to tell you, 3 years ago that you're going to be 8-0, 7 KOs, has your career gone according to plan? Has everything happened the way you want it to, or how would you just kind of look back on say how your career has been to this point in time?
I feel like my career's been better than I even could have ever wished for so
Mm,
far. Like from my amateurs, I think even people around me thought it was a crazy idea to be able to turn pro and then actually go to try and make a living off it. I think even my family and people around me thought that would be a crazy idea, and everything fell into place. Tasman Fighters ended up getting on board, and I ended up signing with them. So yeah, now it's all falling into place, and I think I've shown a lot of people that I can actually go all the way with this.
You said that a lot of people thought you were kind of crazy for thinking you could go pro and make a living right out the gate. Why were you confident? Why did you feel like, you know what, I can do this?
Oh, I've always felt like I'm different from everyone else, and I never thought I belonged in a normal job or a normal
Mm,
9 to 5 or anything like that. Even though right now I do have a job while I'm grinding, but
right.
I picture a life for myself that I'm rich
How do
and
you balance
famous.
that? How do you balance a second job while still working at being a world class type athlete in boxing?
Oh, the job that I have is it's pretty good for my boxing. Honestly, I work with troubled kids, so kids that
Mm.
are less fortunate and have trauma backgrounds, and yeah, it's really good and humbling doing that sort of stuff because then you see what's going on in their lives and realize how lucky you are.
It's an interesting perspective you just mentioned there. Why was this the choice that you decided to go down in terms of working with that opportunity? And also, how have you grown as a person being in that environment?
Yeah, I feel like I've grown so much as a person doing that sort of stuff, and it's leveled me up as a person, even though I'm leveling up as a boxer every day.
Mm.
Doing stuff like that, like it matters most that you're leveling up as a person. So, yeah, doing that sort of stuff, I'm always leveling up as a person. So it's keeping me humble and realizing how lucky I am to wake up every morning. And I think when I go to the gym after doing that sort of stuff, it's like I just got so much extra energy, so much
Mm.
extra drive.
If I were to say, Max, what do you want to accomplish when you decide to retire from boxing one day? Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself accomplishing? Over the next 10, maybe 15 years, whatever it is that you want to spend in boxing. Where do you see yourself? How high do you think you can become? What's the things you can accomplish in the sport?
I think I want to become a household name. I think I'm going to become a household name, and I'm a disputed world champion, and I want everyone to know who I am.
You are fighting at 168 right now, so you're a super middleweight. When you talk about that aspect for yourself, where do you see yourself going from here? Is this the weight class you see yourself fighting at for the foreseeable future? Do you feel like you could move yourself up to light heavyweight, maybe even cruiserweight? Like, where do you see yourself in that regard?
Yeah, well, I'm still filling out, and I'm still getting taller, so
Right.
I think I've grown 2 inches in the past couple of weeks. So
All right.
I've definitely got a long way to go, and I think light heavyweight will be the go in the near future. And
Okay.
then we'll see where we go from there. I could get up to cruiserweight, and then if the money's right, I'm always willing to have a fight heavyweight.
Oh,
If
wait.
it's
We could possibly see Max McIntyre fight at heavyweight, maybe if the money's right in the future.
yeah, 100%. And I think I'm still going to grow. I'm going to be a big heavyweight by the time I'm a heavyweight. So
All right.
yeah.
Now, obviously, that'd be a long time away. So, in the near future, though, you said, do you feel like when you really start working your way up, work about the rankings, try going for world championship, do you feel like that's going to be at 168, or do you feel like that's going to more so happen at 175?
Oh, I think I'll become a world champion at light heavyweight
Okay, gotcha.
because
When do you
I
see that?
think I'm looking at a world title probably in the next 2 years,
Okay.
and I think in the next year or so I'm definitely going to be a lot bigger.
All right, so that was my next question then. So you said, just to confirm then, probably light heavyweight, you moved to that about a year and a half then?
Yeah,
Okay.
year or so I'll definitely be a light heavyweight. Probably a couple more fights, maybe even just one or two more fights at super middleweight,
All
just
right.
because the weight's starting to creep up a little bit.
Right. Well, in terms of in the near future, maybe even the long term, there was a guy that fought that I know going through X. A lot of people domestically in Australia would like to see you guys fight. He fought just last night. That's obviously Ruston, who I'm talking about right there. You two would both be young prospects up and coming. Is that a fight on your radar? Would you want that fight sometime?
That's definitely on the radar, and I think that's a potential fight fairly soon.
Okay.
I don't know if they'll make it with my teammate Austin first, just because he's the same weight division as him
Right.
at light heavyweight, and that's where he's the Australian champion at.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still a super middleweight, but that's a fight I want to make, and yeah, I want that fight.
All right, so we just got done talking about weight classes. You said probably 1 2 fights, year and a half, you moved to 175, light heavyweight. Would we see that fight possibly then, hypothetically, then next year, possibly when you move up?
Yeah, potentially. Potentially it'll be next year when we fight when I move up. Or soonish if he comes to super middleweight. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll see what the next step is and potentially at light heavyweight.
Do you think there's a possibility that he'd go down to 168, or would you guys even possibly be open to doing a catch weight? Something at maybe 170, 171, 172, something like that.
Right now I'm a super middleweight, so
Right.
right now I would take that fight at super middleweight at 168.
Awesome, man. Well, let's get a couple of things before I let you go. One of which is looking at your next year and a half. I know we talk weight wise, but what's some of the accomplishments, things you want to get done? Like, how many times do you want to go in the ring? What's the accomplishments you want to be like? Where do you want to be one and a half years away from now?
I think I want to be able to win a world title in the next 2 years, and then in the next year, I just want to be getting as many fights as I can under my belt. So
Okay.
potentially at least 3 fights a year, if not 5 to 6 fights every year. So right now, I've got 2 fights this year. Hopefully, another 2 or 3, and that would be my goal for this year and next year. Hopefully, just try to get as many as I can. But I want to get some big fights soon, some fights that are going to shoot me up there, because there's only so many fights you can take where it's just a stepping stone, stepping stone, stepping stone. I want to be shot up into the stratosphere soon.
When you talk about your own personal self, do you feel like you're ready to make that big jump now? Do you feel like you're okay with the, stepping stones for the next couple months or whatever? Or when do you feel like you are ready to go fight those guys that are maybe ranked guys or nearly being ranked?
It's still, the last guy I fought was a pretty quality opponent.
Right.
I don't think he would be, I wouldn't say he's a world class opponent, but you do need to have the steps there, and especially because I'm 20, like, you do need to have that, finding your feet sort of fights. And
Yeah.
I think my management's found me pretty good fights with the different styles that I've had to adapt to and overcome to, and I've still got challenges each fight that I've had to overcome. And I think in the next couple fights, now that I've sort of, I feel like I'm mastering everything and putting everything together, and
Right.
there's not really many styles that I think could beat me at all in the next year or so. So in the next year, I don't see anyone beating me at super middleweight.
All right. You are 8-0 in your career. Which opponent that you fought so far would you say has been your favorite fight or your best fight you've had so far?
The best fight I've had so far, well, I'd say the fight where I knocked him out in 55 seconds
Right.
was probably my favorite fight, my favorite performance. But
Absolutely.
my favorite fight though would be my last fight, because that one was against an undefeated guy, 28 years old, and I guess the odds would have been a little bit closer, and I think that one definitely felt the best.
Absolutely, man. Well, Max, I've got one final question for you. It's a question like wrapping up every interview with, and that's talking about your legacy. You are in the early portion of your career, so there's still a long, long career ahead of you. But when you do step away from boxing someday in the future, what do you want to be remembered for what you have accomplished both inside and outside of that ring?
I want to be remembered for being a good person, and I guess I want to be. I just want to be a Hall of Famer as well. I want to go down with a great legacy and someone that took every single fight and never took a step back.
I love that. Well, Max, I appreciate you for taking time to come on today, man. It's been a blessing having you on here. I cannot wait to see what God's got in store for you.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course, you're always welcome on, man. God bless.
See you, bro.